I want to share something with you, not just what you want to ask anymore. I wanted to share something with you. I said, I know I'm in the right company. You have to choose to be that company. You have to choose to be that company. And if something of the highest value can be shared now, I feel it would be that this, all of us by habit, refer to ourselves. I mean, of course, as I, everyone, universally, we speak I. And this I, for most of our life, for maybe the most of mankind, it's not really questioned at all. It's not questioned at all. And nobody challenge each other about it. People say all kinds of things in relating about I. But I can say this now, if there was another group who didn't have the time that we spent together, maybe I would have to say some other thing to them first. But I can say to you now that the I that we, our day-to-day I usage, the I that we ourselves, even by ourselves, we relate from and to so often, maybe for most of the day, for some people for all of the day. That I is not true. It really isn't. And I really feel like today you should listen as though maybe you never hear me say something again. That if I have to impart something to you, we have to tackle that. There's no other way to be free in the highest sense than from transcending that very, very limited identity. It has to be done. And it's not even just about the time, it's about the opportunity. But I have to mention the time also, because if I don't bring it forward like this, in your face, your mind, our mind will continue as it has done for a very, very long time, to just not take it that seriously. And we continue to talk about our problems and what happened and what we need, and everything almost totally based, at least quite a high percentage of it is based on personal identity. Now over the years, I am sure that each one has an identity which is a blend of personhood and the witnessing being, the sense I am. That it is moved at least a little bit more deeply into that beyond the theory. It is moved at least into a place, you may say, where it is operative, it's functional. It's become part of your being. But how long it will take to drop this I, and I'm not going to say, somebody needs to drop the I. Yes, we can use this terminology, but at least to verify that that I is always limited. And if we retain identity with that I, with any practice that he does, he will not reach it, because he is convinced of himself that he is this place. And from that place, what keeps it going is that we fantasize about ourselves being in, very high places in the heavenly realms, and we fantasize a bit about it. And yes, if we have identity, we hold identity, and you are, say, a good person, not an evil person, we, let's say we are compassionate and kind and just, fair, loving, not judgmental, even if you don't venerate God and you have good qualities, it will still elevate you in consciousness. But if your aim in your heart is the freedom that you read about, hear about, when we read things like Avadutta Gita, the Ribu Gita, Ashtavakra Gita, Bhagavad Gita, like these, if you're reading these texts and they impact on you, they are not there to impress you. They are not there to impress us, to create spiritual fantasies in us. They're not there for that. They're a hand that helps you to pull yourself into your own heart. And you have to take it seriously. You have to. Otherwise, we miss it. Next time round. Next time round. We don't know. I don't know what last time round was. I don't remember what last time round was. Some may say, was there a last time round? I don't know. But I don't remember last time or the time before that around. And perhaps we will forget whatever it is that lives through our memory, whatever that lives on in our memory of ourselves, because we're living also with the memory of ourselves every day. And even memory fades also. We know it, that memory fades. So if memory is your memory bank of who you are, that also will fade. And life, God's grace, gives us the opportunity in life to hear about cases I've myself met whose memory is fading. We tend to start to forget what is irrelevant. Whereas in the egoic state, we would be, clinging to that, thinking that is so important not to forget. And we're not saying, let us not forget God. We are saying, let's not forget ourselves. Are you with me on this one? Yeah. So I don't know if I had to count which one here has that urge, and amongst us, that urge, that urgency, even that emergency to really do what it takes. And I'm going to tell you what that is, actually. All that we are experiencing through our mind, history, and past and present and future, and identity, are changeful states of mind and being. And we know it also. We only have to stop and look. And the amazing thing, we can go on for a very, very long time and not know it, just not get the gist of it. It only becomes obvious when it becomes obvious. And when it becomes obvious is when we are confronted with it. And life gives us the opportunity, out of life's grace, to have opportunity to look at our assumptions. We can live with assumptions for a very long time. Come on. And I want to say that when I say all that we are experiencing, I have to add to that experience, and you can understand it. I have to add to that experience the idea we think of who we are, the idea we have of who we are, is actually also being experienced, but not consciously. The sense of ourselves as a person is like a cloud. It's never still. It's always moving, always changing shape. But because the underlying principle in it is the I am, which is consciousness. When we say I, it is actually indicating consciousness, not your person. But look how far we are moved from that. When you say I, you think, you're a woman, you're a guy, you're Swedish, you're Scottish, you add so many things onto it, and it's cluttered with all information and concept. So to strain it out, to sieve it out and say what's left, the pure what's left inside all of that is just consciousness. All of it is built inside and upon consciousness. And if you're not aware of that, we cannot be sufficiently detached from our living autobiography in our mind. We cannot do it. You follow? We cannot do it. We just go from episode to episode, experience after experience. You consider, I don't know what time it is now, maybe it's 8:45 or something like that, yesterday morning. Can you retrace your precise experience emotionally, or psychologically, or spiritually, or chronologically, or actually? You cannot find it, it's gone. Isn't everything like that? Everything's like that. Isn't there something that can agree that those things are gone? So it must have been the witness of those things. And we can spend lifetimes and not actually face that truth. And how amazing, we put so much energy, so much effort to find things in life that we call truth, that we call good, success and family and money and fame and power and reputation. We put so much effort and almost no effort to realize who we are really. So it's really quite a conundrum. It's really quite an absurdity. How could that happen? If you go somewhere and somebody say, you're a policeman or something like that, in plain clothes, and somebody asks you, yeah, so sorry, who are you? You say, I'm a policeman. You never forget, you're just on duty. You say, I'm a policeman. You take off your policeman's gear, you say, yeah, I'm her husband. I'm his wife. You go out on your own and you say, yeah, you tell me something about yourself. Yeah, I'm a plumber. We say all these things, but nobody says, I am consciousness. In our world, in our environment, that would seem strange. People laugh at you. It means consciousness. Everybody, we are all conscious. No, I'm consciousness. Why? We don't say it. Well, we don't know it. And the second thing, we have nobody to say it to, because it doesn't compute. You say, what are you talking about? It's consciousness. It's easy. So knowing your consciousness is not to tell other people about it. It is to function from. Just like if we have an identity that we are personal, it is from that identity that we are functioning and interacting with others. It's from there. You see? If I say that all that we do, think, imagine, believe, because they are states, that's why you can write about them. And even when you're writing about them, you're not in that thing you're writing. You're separate from the thing you're writing. So if they are states, what is it that can identify them as states? Is that also a state? Does that change? Supposing you have, 10 strings, all with balls at the end of them, all swinging. Can any string amongst those gauge the swing of other strings? Can it say, oh, this one is at 20 degrees to this, and cannot do it because it itself is swinging. There's something in us that's like a still string against which everything else can be measured. What is that? Again, we say it is consciousness, it's the witness, it's the self. Let's put it like that. It's the self, unchanging. And if I say like that, when does it ever change? I'm going to say something even more than that. that the consciousness that functions as a witness is also not permanent. There's a deeper awareness in which even this witness is also seen. We follow or not? Because you know that you're okay, you just woke up and now you're conscious, you got, you watch the body moving and the world moving and the wind blowing, everything like that. You watch this. Hmm? But you're not always witnessing in that. You're not always witnessing the phenomenal world. You follow? When we say witness, it's usually witnessing phenomenal things, and I'll add to that phenomenal things, even your feelings and emotions is also phenomenal. And add to that one also the idea and the identity you carry as the one witness also sometimes. Only when witnessing is pure, impartial, and impersonal, then the witness has no shape. Are you aware of the shapeless witness? And how much we are aware of it in a continual way? Behind even the witness, there is the essence. It is not a function, it doesn't do. It is the unsupported support of everything else, including the functioning consciousness. We understand that? So now my final point now I want to make here is that you have to be, to see the importance of being conscious that everything that is appearing in you, every state, including the state of personhood, okay, is untrue. It is not a fact. It's a fiction. Now we may look and say, well, what stops us from seeing that? Perhaps because we, in our aspect as the manifest consciousness, have got investments, psychological, emotional, personal investments in some aspect of the phenomenal world. Fair enough. No? That then doesn't want to be threatened by maybe discovering something, then actually what I'm doing is unreal. Now, I've got good news about that. It's not that we have to dismiss the world, because also God manifested this body for action, to do something. This mind to function also in a wide range of situations and experiences, to be still present as the witness, in spite of actions going on more and more. It becomes very spontaneous, more intuitive, not so rehearsed or planned or projected or attached to. But the one who wants to go through, or you may say return somehow. And I'm just watching my words and watching myself speak this. So I'm not giving you something that you think, wow, how can anybody do that? Because what I'm speaking about is the one thing here that never leaves. It never changes. It never becomes anything. It may have been the cause of all that we see in the world. And as the sages say, everything that manifests in the world, everything that you see in the world, is one with it. And this feels very difficult to understand. How can you say, but the world is just, it's like it's not real, and then you're saying that, but this thing is real, but they are one. How can it be? How we can say like that? Well, we can say that, of course, if I keep it very simple, that without consciousness, nothing can be perceived. Even the one perceiving cannot be there. Isn't it? These are quick points, bullet points I'm making. And because your consciousness is faster than a bullet, by not moving, everything is seen in it. So you can grasp this. You don't have to untangle through your person and your resistance, because that should not be there. If you feel resistance and so on, awkwardness and things, at least you know, wait, I'm watching that also. And that has to mean something. That you're watching it means something. Mean that you cannot be that thing. So for that rare one who sees that even the person with all their episodes, because there's no end to the person's troubles. There's no end to the person's adventures and things to come and things gone and things present. There's no end to it. It's not that you should try and struggle with the world to control it. No. When Jesus said, trust in God, trust also in me, for I have overcome the world, not overpowered it. What it means, overcome. Overcome means to see it as it is, and that all the problems we have with the world is because we identify as the one in the world, as the person who want. And for anyone who has the goal of awakening to the truth, not as a kind of fantastic achievement, but out of the necessity of being free and to transcend suffering and to find the truth. Anyone like that will be able to do it. You see. Simply when you listen to the invitation, as all of you have listened to the invitation, at the end of the invitation, where are you? What is there of you? What can you put down on paper about yourself at the end of the invitation? You know something is. You may say it's yourself, or you may say that it's consciousness, but it's still the one saying it is consciousness must be the consciousness also. You're left with that. And you can see that everything else, nothing can compare with this. Why do we suffer states? Because we identify as the one who is capable, alone capable of suffering none. When we are fit enough and ready enough to accept and to see, not even accept, I mean, you will accept the invitation, but to confirm through direct experience. Nothing touches this. Nothing touches this. Neither good nor bad. Neither righteousness nor unrighteousness. Neither one or the other is more related to this, because this is qualityless. You have to get it inside. That's what not just the prophets and saints, the sages, which I put above, which is the ones who have attained moksha, what they are and verify. What they are and verify. I'm verifying with you today. Don't add any beautiful flowery concepts to that. It just is as it is. If you carry a mind, you're attached to the mind is going to feel, yeah, it's not enough, it's not, there's nothing going on there, and yeah, I know I am that, but there's no real oneness with it. Because inside the mind person, there's a little bit of fear or resistance to that. And there will always be. So if you're waiting for your mind to encourage you and to say, yeah, come on, that's what we're, it's not. If it does, it's because it's on a fake path. That is encouraging you to keep the idea you're practicing, you're going off. Because where does the self have to go? In what direction you must go? You cannot go in any direction. So only the one who has come to a sattvic understanding, you see, and who is ready for this. Otherwise, it feels it's too much to cope with it, because the mind will think, I'm giving up so much, I've sacrificed. The mind itself is a fraud in this. Ultimately. We will evolve in the realm of consciousness, getting higher and higher and higher and higher. When will you reach? Just that as we are going higher and higher, what it means in another way is that the grip of ego is dissolving. In everything else, going higher and higher and higher means getting more and more and more. But in my language, what I'm saying, going higher and higher and higher is becoming less and less and less something concrete. And where's the end? Where's the end? The end is there before even the beginning. The end is there even before the beginning. This is the wonderful thing. We don't need to imagine what I'm saying. You know it directly. Actually, you don't know it apart from it. You don't know it apart from it. We are this. This is the great paradox and the mystery of all of this. That what we are is the last thing we find. What we imagine, we are constantly pursuing. But nobody can pursue the self. In the beginning, it's the self that gives us the taste for wanting to, only because of suffering and because our plans ultimately don't work. We get the urge to find it because we have these bodies that are imbued with senses, sense organs, and sense interest. And these are powerful wild horses to try and control. And the mind, which has the capacity to dream, to fantasize, to project, to imagine. Why you say God gave us those faculties? For what? Seeing that they're so hard to steer those horses. So either two things. Either you are a charioteer, like Krishna, steering the horses, or you transcend them by realizing that, not realize mentally or intellectually, but seeing the obviousness that when you are established again in your original place, you're immediately in silence. You're not cultivating silence. You're not growing silence. You're not a farmer for silence and peace. You are that. Silence and peace begins after you, in you. Now, I want to know from you, is what I'm saying impossible? If I'm standing in the place of that, how far? How far for you to attain or recognize or realize this? How far you must go? What must be done? I tell you now that the one who is truly earnest for this must keep recognizing that the mind is not going to give up. Our tendencies are not going to just leave you, say, oh, I'm not getting anywhere like that by itself. But each time they come, and expect them to come, each time they come, they must find you in the same motionless place. The thought-free state is the true witness of all things, but it's not an active witness. You follow when I say it's not an active, it's not watching what's going on. The one who is watching what's going on usually carries some identity. You can say that the witnessing, or even of the witness and its world, occurs in it and to it, but it cannot benefit. And you have to be sufficiently matured and prepared by grace to what seemed like, how can I bear such a state that has no sense food? Why it has no sense food? It gives food to the senses. It causes all things to be satisfied. It causes all things to pursue, but itself is complete. It cannot be complete in the head. It cannot be complete as a concept. Even the word complete is just the best attempt we can use with words to talk about it. It's beyond complete and incomplete. And maybe the word beyond feels a bit like it's somewhere. No, beyond only in terms of subtlety. We are this. Even the most ignorant person is this at heart. We vary only in our varying states, and even unto ourselves in our expressive identity is not stable, it's always changing. No autobiography, no biography can be complete. even when you're dead, because everything is subjective. The self is called like the subject of subjects. These are words. There's no words in it. There's no program in it. So of course to the ordinary mind it's not appealing. Not even is it not appealing, it's not attractive. Not even it's not attractive, they are not even anywhere near to find attractive, not even repulsed by it, they cannot even find it. It seems just foolishness. It's like somebody going past and speaking, some, Celtic language to you. And we are, we don't understand. If we don't understand, maybe he might understand. It's like we cannot relate if someone is not ready for this. And what I'm saying, everyone here has been in a journey of orientation towards your heart. Don't try to convince your mind to come on the journey. What to do? When the mind stuff comes, and he will come. You see him, you feel him. Be one with yourself as a pure awareness. Because nothing can attack awareness. Nothing can attack awareness. Just see that. But because of the history and the habit of using the mind as our tool to do things, it will come with a very persuasive power or an addictive power. Before you know it, your reflexes, you're back into some identity or something, not you are back, but something from you, a potential to re-identify personally. Because if this personal thing doesn't happen, mind has no power. Mind has power through your person, meaning that mind gets power through your personal identity, which we seem to be so proud of. So what's the chance? So like this, you probably experience in the realm of duality, failure after failure, the mind come and wow, your meditation is so peaceful, something come, bang, and oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do, and that's going to happen for us. Don't be disappointed. Stay empty. Don't feed it. Don't feed it with, what I should do. It's feeding it. What you should do is stay as you are. And that should be the practice that continue until gradually, in some miraculous way, these forces of subtle just drop in their power. That's how powerful the self is. We may have been walking and drifting for 100 years. But the minute the understanding really happens, that happens in an instant. And yet now the real work begun. That's where really sometimes practice, the second stage of practice, is to practice to stop, to overcome the influence of the psychological mind, pulling you back into pulling out some, nothing happens to the self, but a potential in the self to reform itself into a person happens with the mind, and then comes the turmoil. That's what we are experiencing anyway. Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I had a really strong mind attack.
A few weeks ago, you had a strong mind attack?
Yeah, it was something like you're doing everything wrong, like the typical thing, like very personal thing. And I was like for a couple of hours like this and felt terrible, of course. And then I finally managed kind of to sit down and thought, the first moments were like, okay, so who is this? And inquiry and trying to pull all the tools, but very much from the mind. And just a few moments like this, and then I don't have to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, it was so powerful. It just all collapsed.
In that instant when that was seen, what was your eye? I don't have to do anything at all. It must have shifted from shape to shapelessness. in an instant like that, something drops. Did you have to do some gymnastics to do it? No. What happened? Nobody can say. It's just as though something just dismounted. Like, whoa, you don't remember dismounting, but it's just some grace you can put like that. Maybe the fruits of previous practice, the fruits of your sadhana, something came to help you. We call it grace come and release this hypnosis, broke the spell, and you realize I'm here. What can break the spell? And who was the one when the spell broke? Who benefited? Is it the person who was was suffering this? No, the spell means you break from the belief that you were that person. I want you, we're recording this, everybody here must watch this over and over again. If you don't watch any more satsang at this stage, you watch this over and over again and see what the attitude is. It's not that, okay, I don't want to experience anymore. No, not this. No judgment, no reaction. Just keep quietly looking and see. Not just in some kind of mechanical way, dismissing anything. Just keep bringing your attention back and put it, instead of putting it on the fire of the mind, put it in the cool place of your being. And see how long it takes. What fire do you have to put out? You can do it even now. Just watch it from now. Don't leave satsang and think, okay, now it's time for this and now I'm going to do. No, don't let your satsang go. All about you, all about ourselves. Because mind will tell you, okay, let's finish now, let's go and do this. We bite every time. When I say we bite, we consciousness have become weakened by placing our identity in the ephemeral. So of course, we have no steadiness, nothing steady. The mind goes, and you're gone. You take shape. I think I've spoken more words than I felt I would have done, but did it confuse you? If you don't get it, you may do 100 practices. Only come back to this point again. If you get it and you see, even now, why would you not be in the place that I'm speaking about? Even now, as you're listening, that the blackboard of your being is wiped clean from the chalk marks of your own mind and person. So why would you not be? What's there to do? Because in satsang, this happens also, that without any sadhana, you're in your natural state.
In your presence.
Because it doesn't need any practice itself. Just the seeing, the understanding is more important than doing, 15,000 spiritual press-ups. Just that understanding, applied understanding, means stay put and watch. Because mind is going to give you a lot of opportunities today. It's going to give us a lot of opportunities today. And there has to be this natural choosing. Keep doing. And results will come. If you don't feel at first, maybe at first, your mind is going to be a stinky. It's going to come strong, like, oh, no, I can't do this yet. No, maybe I should do this first. And watch this eye again. And just recognize how long it will take to recognize that is also phenomenal. It's not actually. It's just a state. All we are experiencing are states of mind. In fact, a human being normally is just a state of mind. Invested in for that moment. And a certain pattern of a certain way of investing in identity. But the self is constant. He's not constant because he practiced being constant. And that's why it says beyond constant or inconstant. You see? That's why it says, beyond righteous or unrighteous. He doesn't have to practice anything to be himself. It's beyond righteousness because righteousness points to a quality, and the self is beyond the quality. But if we have to develop quality, better it be righteous ones. In our, as you are realizing the self, even you can continue in this life expressing true individuality. That's normal also. The consciousness wants to do it. It is manifesting the impersonal and the personal. That will be there. But ego is another thing. Ego corrupts and distorts things. Yes, it's not that, if you realize yourself, you don't do anything. Look, observe. We are still living in an age where we can observe some of the actions and behaviors of some of the masters we have seen. Did they just sit on some chair like a stone Buddha? No. They're active, they were funny, they were playful also. It's not that somehow you must, start to take up some new behavior. It happens spontaneously. As I said, all good qualities are manifesting spontaneously in the mind of that is awakened to the truth. So from all that I've shared just now, unintentionally actually, I find myself down here saying goodbye to Krishna. All that I've shared, you must find that quintessential point. What is the gist? There may come a time when I don't have to go through all this anymore to talk with you. Listen. If you were to choose one seed understanding, every one of you should have a seed understanding that when you go off a little bit, it brings you back into the earth. Until that is not needed. We should have a rudder on a boat, that just keeps you here. And even that, I'm using some words and qualities about it, but don't be afraid that somehow in realizing the self, you cannot enjoy the phenomenal existence. Yeah, it's not even that, but you will enjoy it without addiction. We have to do this. Together we do. Singly you do. We sit. It's time for results. I am not marking any paper. You are the result. What we are is the result. Unmasked and undressed from this garment of phenomenality, you can say. Phenomenality is okay as a garment, but from ego. So even going beyond phenomenality, in a way, something kind of, you go beyond it, then you include it again. It's okay. Go beyond them. So that's it. You see, if we retain personal identity, it will be on the path of spirituality also. It's one of the best disguises also. Can I say like that? He can even find a space for himself in religion and spirituality. I'm not saying religions are bad; they are place, but the ego can hide there also. I've said that the ego can hide in the pillowcase of God. Can hide there also. Always giving you something more to do, some other place to get to, and so on. But when you are here, you can see through all those things. Just like when someone is on top of a mountain, you can see all the different routes of people trying to come up in different ways. And you can tell this one here, hey, whoa, don't go this way. Come back and come this way. Because you're on the top. You're on the mountain top of your own being. So another one is going, no, I made my own way. No! cannot do it. Nobody can do it for you. But you can listen and apply. Perhaps the most earnest one. Sometimes we're a bit on fire. So when I hear someone say, I don't have time, I really don't have time now. Because the mind will always give you time. Mind is time. Tell you, take it easy. You're doing well. Don't worry. Take a break from that. Seem like it's on your side. There's a time when his mind, the bad, and no, it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful servant of the Supreme. But don't think that he's a servant by pleasing you only. He will spank you also if in his service. We have to be smart enough to take from that. Watching. You don't have to go anywhere to watch. When you're in your heart, you're in the everywhere place. So any direction it comes, you don't have to turn your head to see. Because you're in the everywhere place. If you're earnest. If you're not, then yeah, it's okay. Someone else will make use of it. Don't compromise also, you see. It's just an opportunity. Let's watch. Please identify that you are experiencing a state. There's nothing cynical like it's horrible. No. If you say, oh, it's horrible, that's also state. Just see. Just put the tension back in the heart. Bring the attention back into it. That's a simple instruction. Bring it back into the heart. Bring it back into the heart. At first, like I say, it will feel very, very almost impossible because it feels that you start to feel how powerful the mind can be, but only because we've been so weak in our personhood. When you stand your ground in the highest place, you still feel strong because the strength of the mind is its ability, it seems at first, to suck you back into identity. And it's the identity that contact that makes that feeling of suffering, but persist. Nobody wins without effort and persistence. Keep going, keep going. And gradually efforts give way to a very natural being. As you're feeling more and more peaceful, be encouraged, but don't be overconfident. Yeah, I got him now. Whack. Yeah, don't boast. Remember, there are no steps. In the truth, if you can hear that. You want to take steps, there will be steps. And in a way you may experience, well, that was a step and so on. But don't start to count them. It's okay to use that term, that somehow you are encouraged by each victory. A victory meaning that somehow you retain somehow, and you feel the benefit of it also. You feel the space of it. And God is not judging. Yeah. Sometimes we may hear the term like God is waiting for you. But really and truly he's not. Because he never forgets who he is inside you. It's only the person we think we are that keeps forgetting who we are. It's not God that forgets you. Nobody can live without God. By God I mean the pure consciousness in its non-phenomenal and phenomenal manifestation. Good.
You know, right now I just received a call and I see my whole attention went into the phone and all your words before were so clear when you were speaking and suddenly it was just gone.
Yeah.
And immediately after, again, I listen to you, and it takes a little bit, and then it's clear again.
There's a good example also. But, what I would say, learn from everything. The one who is really, you learn from everything. Everything is kind of like nourishment for the seeker, no? Until he vanishes in this discovery. Everything is good. And the more we become, reestablished, you know, you develop the abilities of King Janaka. King Janaka was a king of great kingdom. He was also awake. How is possible? Someone with so much responsibility. It's one example, isn't it? With so many things. You think that only someone live, in a loincloth in some cave on top of a mountain can do it. Only they have the time. No, King Janaka also. He had everything. No? Had so many things that are kingly. Now I'm talking about today's kings, which are queens and kings, who are just decorations mostly and symbols. But actually had to rule his kingdom. No prime minister had to rule the kingdom and awake. This is what Krishna was saying, Lord Krishna with Arjuna. On the battlefield, arm is waiting, arrows ready to be drawn to fight. You're having satsang at the front of the battlefield. Surely there's some metaphor, some analogy in that. Don't wait for conditions to be perfect, to be free. Make them. Because man will tell you, it's not a good time for that. Not a good time for that. Finish your party and after you finish this thing. And then you put the self into time. He's timeless. Perhaps time will come when I won't have to talk so much, because the self doesn't need any words. And also it has other languages that are not word-oriented. Grace is language also of pure consciousness. Love also. Peace also language. Even this camera, steady as it is, I see it moving. If I'm moving as well, I can't see if it's moving. They even assume, it's a tripod. No, it's still. That, if you get my point, only from your stillness, not being still, from your stillness, effortless stillness, you can observe all the movements. Not even that it matters that much. By seeing them, they even intensify the sense of your stillness. Even the subtlest can be perceived. And I want to know if what we are sharing, if it's practical, you see. Because if it's not practical, everybody's going to throw it away. I'm not saying, listen, you give up your jobs, you give up all these things, go and find yourself a nice little place, and you stay there, don't move. No, you can move about, but give some focus attention. It may seem you need to stop for a moment and really Look, and till it's clear what is the play, like this, and then see that everything fits into this play. Everything fits into this play. You don't have to go to the west or to the east or to the north or south, outside or inside to see everything, where whatever, however subtle it is, it features inside this play of the mind. And you are the witness of the mind. The mind is inside you. You're also inside the mind, and you are beyond. It's to you he reports, no? Even while you're performing your role in the world as an individual, watch that inside your self. Everything can happen. Even things can be done very accurately, action like this, but it's inside the great seeing. It's good to say or not? Yeah, because people think, oh no, I can't do that because I got to concentrate on the self. No. Until you come to see that the self doesn't have to concentrate on anything at all. But don't buy this as an idea. Prove him first. You see. Even as we're moving about in life, and there's no job or duty I can exclude. As I told you the story of Lord Krishna on a battlefield, can you imagine a more stressful situation than that? Satsang. And yet, if you are not centered, you can break your fingernail and you want to call off work. I can't come in today. We can come like this. Bringing one's attention to rest inside the very source of attention. All you need to do. Once. But this once is continuous. It becomes effortless. It's good that we can be sitting here talking like this today, this morning. Mm-hmm.
Just I would like to share what you said about practical. It is more and more, the more I let go or something is letting go of things, the more effortless all the movements become. And even when the mind attacks or mind things coming, I remembered when you said once, offer everything to it, and I didn't really know what that meant until I just offered it up, and it just disappeared.
Yeah.
So it's like the more something lets go, the more your words are proving it themselves inside me.
Yeah. This is true.
And then I know then I realize what you mean when you say that the words become spirit.
Yes.
It is, I can confirm it somehow.
The mind itself will tell you too much of these things, practical things, gets in the way. He gains more life for himself. But is there anything more practical than God? That even the movement of an atom obeys his will. Don't waste time judging too much, judging on a personal basis. You may contemplate, you may assess a little bit. Don't get too deeply involved that things become personal. Once you hit the personal button, everything begins to descend into chaos and suffering and pain. Let things unfold. Don't be too much into this is right and this is wrong. Don't get lost into that. Oh, that was wrong, I did this wrong. Don't get lost into that, because you definitely need some identity to be that. But until we get to higher understanding, strive for what is right. At least it elevates the conscious, refines it more and more in righteousness. Whereas doing things wrong intentionally, manipulating forces and like this, is like a ticket to hell in a way. Hellish states, hellish states, and even those is a blessing because you can't bear it. Because even the demons can't bear it. It's their environment, they're used to it. But they also have to evolve in this illusory world. God is, no, God is not so unkind as to not even cause the demons to evolve. How much more ourselves? Yes. So it's a good thing Gangotri say, yes, I found that, the practical things don't get in the way. I say, what is more practical? Who is more practical than God? He gives us also, who are also God in disguise, the opportunity to be truly practical. And the most practical is to wake up. It would be something if you had to go someplace to wake up. If waking up was more happening in China or in Brazil, then you say, okay, I have to save up my money to go there. And it could have played something like that. Because in this world, it's so diverse, nobody can comprehend the wisdom of the Supreme. But I said, no, it's to be found in the core of your own being. No one has any excuse, and yet not everyone is called at the same time. Sometimes we have to, for a while, suffer a bit. It's part of our maturing until we get to a point where there's no more need for suffering. Don't try to understand God. Just discover Him.
So be it. So be it.
So be it. Amen. Thank you. This is let's call it a tribute to Krishna Bhai this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Bless us to be one with what you share.
You just have to prove it. And nobody can prove it for you. You have to prove it. Whether you prove it or disprove it makes no difference to it. Only to you. Whatever present idea you're relating to as yourself, as ourselves. And it also says that when I speak about, it's not about whether you're good or you're bad. It does not disqualify you. It's not that we have to listen very carefully when I say that. But I know I don't think there's any bad people here, so I can say that. Because of course some person would take it as just an excuse. Actually, very few bad people think that they're bad. If you find a person who is bad and think they're bad, it's like someone who says, I'm mad. At least to that extent, there cannot be. To some extent. So, This is why it says, for the one who wants to fully wake up, don't strive only to be good and bad or bad. Don't strive, beyond to be beyond bad. That is good, but to wake up is beyond. It means that you're not impeded by that. We have examples of even people like Milarepa, even Jupakunda, many people who demonstrated it's beyond the range of the interrelated palette of expressions. No? But that must be said always in an auspicious environment. No? So somebody really understand that and don't use an excuse. Beyond, that you're so good, and because even that may still carry some ego also. You see, at the same time, don't strive to be bad, because goodness elevates the consciousness, refines it from the poison of personhood also gradually like this. No? But what would take in practice many years, many lifetimes, in an instant can be realized by the gracious mind, the one who the one who can hear it. We don't know beforehand who in someone is just, whoa. And they may not say anything. Even their breathing may not change. But in that twist of consciousness, it's seen. And I don't want to say, yeah, that's it, that's the end of it. No. That instant must become, the timeless now, meaning that beyond time. And how to do that. Just keep each time, because mind will not give up. Sometimes the mind force may seem to get even stronger from it. It's like he's smelling death, it's in the drama of the play of Maya. You can feel like that. But you persist. And each time we win, so to speak, meaning that you don't get then you feel again, you start to feel the space and breath of, I don't know what words are now, because I'm running out of words in terms of their capacity and their range. And this is what happens after a certain point. You see that the words at a certain point, they are not enough. We don't know what it takes. I use the word grace. Whenever I can't explain something that I see is good, I say grace. Means unmerited. Grace means not because you're so good. And therefore, even the person with the worst background is not exempt. In a moment, they could surpass all the others because they have what it takes, something. That's how fickle, you see, the standards can be. Someone may see, whoa, this person, I've heard people say, no, forget about a guy, it will never change. So who are you to say that? You don't know. Maybe it's just, his being is just waiting to burst open. Haven't found that thing. No one can say. And someone can be practicing spirituality for many, 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 many years and still just inching along. Somebody come that's just complete, don't know anything about religion, don't know anything about God, but somehow in that moment, it's like, oh, that twist of consciousness, and things fall away from the seeming grip of them. Even like this we speak is grace also, because if you have been listening with your heart, you should be totally empty actually. Yeah. Meaning that the mind force have no influence unless something is holding on and saying, yeah, but. Yeah. But when that is also itself kind of recognized, that that cannot be anything other than a cloud itself, then you see, is there anything that you perceive that is other than a cloud? Then you're seeing from and as the sky itself. Even if a whole group of clouds could join together and say, listen, we're going to block the sky. Yeah, we're going to really cover you up so much, nobody will be able to see you. You see, now you can see this. By their very nature, they have to pass. And anyway, the sky just laughs how funny I am and makes jokes like this with myself.